Jada, Mr. Ola Tundra, and his band. I want y'all to give it up and give it a round of applause.
Oh, welcome. Garvey's Ghost TV, January 19th, 2022. We're going to get into the new Nazis. But first, real quick, this will be on BitChute, Odyssey, and Rumble shortly after we conclude. And you can Zell me. And the music you heard is from my CD, album, iTunes. What are you going to call it now? See, I'm so old. I remember 8 tracks. But it's a collection of music called Oya Music Live. And it's on iTunes. You can buy it if you like it. Anyway, I think that's enough of the intros. Smash the like button, subscribe button, all those things people like to say all the time. Ting and ting and ting ting. Anyway, gonna take a little break from all the COVID stuff. Although this is related to COVID, but it's not gonna be COVID news. I gotta put my foot all the way in DNC's butt because they're just outright. I mean, I saw a video this week where it is a school, I don't know, I think it's in California, where they put unvaccinated kids or non-vaccinated, I think that's better, non-vaccinated kids outside behind a yellow line and rope with some police to keep them away from classes. I mean, that's just ugly. And then today, while I'm prepping this thing, I see a video out of Canada going right to this subject. See, some people might think I'm going far with the Nazi comparisons. But the truth is, Germany didn't go from zero to ovens. Okay? They didn't go that. There was a process. First, you had to make this group, the outside group, and then you had to identify them. Then you had to dehumanize them, and then you started taking these rights away, and you started identifying them with certain things or certain things they didn't have, and then you start putting them in places that keep them away from the rest of the Germans, and then eventually you just spiral out of control. And you'd think organizations that say never again and you can't forget that thing would recognize the stuff going on. But I found that as people get older, they start doing really dumb stuff because they're afraid to die. So we have this Sotomayor, and I put this in a blog post where, and it's being disputed now, but where she isn't taking the oral arguments personally. She's in her office while everyone else is at the bench or whatever, courthouse, whatever. And supposedly because Gorsuch refuses to wear a mask. But here's the thing. Sotomayor sided twice to force people to take a biological product that she herself has taken, but clearly does not believe work. Because if she believed it works, then she wouldn't have a problem with what Gorsuch or anybody else in the room was doing, right? Because the stuff works. So how do you have a judge who doesn't personally believe in the medication she took, protecting her, is going to force other people to take that same thing? Right? And it's just this lunacy that's out there. And people trying to deflect, well, the Roberts didn't actually ask and didn't enforce and they didn't have, that's besides the point. She's making a decision about a product she doesn't believe in herself. And that kind of hypocrisy is disqualifying to me. At a minimum, he should have no say in any court decision that has to do with mandates at all. As soon as you're out, we need her gone. That's a minimum. I think she needs to be removed from the court because she's done some stuff that just made no sense. But anyway, didn't make any sense. I'm trying to be grammatically correct. But anyway, I'm just rambling on some stuff because I really don't want to go through articles today. Today I want to just go on what Democrats believed and what they were growing into and to what they believe. And some other people have covered this in their blogs, but I'm going to cover it too. But first, I'm going to cover this. Let's get to this page. This Pew Research Center piece that came out back in October of 2017. And I commented on it on the blog about 4 times. I took out different pieces of it. So I'm going to review this because this kind of explains where Democrats were going. And so this is something. So let's look at some of this stuff. So this Pew Research Center, political typology reveals deep fissures on the right and left. And I'm not going to go over the conservative stuff because, quite frankly, they're not doing much. And they're not in power, except on the more local level, state levels. But on the national level, they're basically neutered at this point, partially because they just don't have a spine. But let's look at this this grouping. And one of the things here is who are these people. And I want to look at these bottom ones. The blues, broken out to devout and diverse, disaffected Democrats, opportunity Democrats, and solidly liberal. And they're showing what percentage they are of the general public, registered voters, and politically engaged. And there's no surprise that politically engaged, the extremes of both conservatism and liberalism. I don't like calling them liberals, but we'll just say with this that they represent an outsized portion of those engaged relative to the population. So to see that, what's kind of important? Well, they obviously don't approve of, this is conservatives. I want to skip down to Democrats, right? 99% disapprove of Donald Trump's job performance. No surprise, 2017. But look at this. This part is going to come in handy later. Government has responsibility to make sure all Americans have health coverage. That's 97% of solid liberals and strong pluralities amongst every type of Democrat, right? U.S. needs to continue making changes to give blacks equal rights with whites. And I ask this question every time I see this. What right don't I have? I'm black, by the way. Okay, you didn't know this. All right. What right do I not have that my white neighbor has. Rights. Now, I'm not talking about social preferences or that kind of stuff. I'm saying rights under the law. What rights do I not have? No one can ever answer that question. Oh, you have the right to not to be discriminated against. And you're being discriminated against. By whom? Tell me who it is. Right? So I hate when I see this, but keep this in mind that they think blacks are not equal. They're telling you that that's how they see you. Because here's the thing. There is nothing here about non-white Hispanics, Asians, Native Americans, Southeast Asians, which we call Indians. Everything is black. So what's up with those other people? Right? The other thing, this is a nice one. I'm going to get it back to. Hard work and determination are no guarantee of success for most people. Which is true. If you work hard, you're not guaranteed success. But here's the thing. And this is why I think Democrats have gone off the equality of opportunity to equality of outcome. Because working hard does not guarantee an end that's successful. No guarantee whatsoever. But if you want to be successful, barring some lottery event, you have to work hard. You can't escape the work hard part. So let's think about that. The other thing, and this is relevant for what we're going to get into later, government regulation of business is necessary to protect the public interest. Now, you notice the public interest. It's going to be a lot of public interest. So there's that. And there's a plurality of stuff here. Here is people who approve of what, disapprove or approve. Obviously, we're going to see this. Democrats, don't approve. We're not surprised there. Okay, we're on part 2, the typology. So if you notice here, this is people with expertise. Now remember, Democrats basically have made Falsey, I have to call him Falsey, into a god next to George Floyd. Okay, Falsey is a god. Now, that's not strange given what we see here, right? Expertise are generally viewed as being able to make good decisions, right? 83% of solid liberals, 72% of opportunity Dems, and a slight majority of disaffected Dems believe that people with expertise are better at making good decisions. That's not true. I can give you a good example. Two examples. One you're going to hate. Henry Ford was not an expert in anything as far as I know. Maybe business. From what I understand, Henry Ford believed in getting experts and surrounding himself with people. So money experts, engineers, what have you. Those experts know their field. In other words, they're good at data. Decision making usually employs an emotional or the ability to ignore emotional parts of the process. Right? If you have to fire a bunch of people, there's people who just can't handle it. They just can't stomach it. Even if it's the right thing to do, right? Think of people who gamble and they throw more money as they're losing to try and make up It doesn't change the odds, no matter how much money you throw out. It doesn't change the odds. If you're playing a losing game, you're going to keep losing, no matter how much money you throw on it. Those people are making bad decisions. And a lot of people, even if they know better, will make bad decisions, even if they're experts. Experts in their fields are good at their field. Does not necessarily make them a decision maker. For example, a computer programmer may be an expert computer programmer, and they can tell you this is what's wrong with your code and this is why the security is bad, da da da. But the person who has to make the decision on whether we deploy the software now or later is the one who's the good decision maker. So a lot of times, and this is what we see with Democrats, is they conflate expertise with the ability to make a good decision. And that's very bad. So going back to this Pew thing, so we had the decision making. So then we get to the immigrants. So they talk about immigration and discrimination, opinions about immigration and Islam. So going to the black stuff, if you notice that percent who say the country blank to give blacks equal rights with whites, again, somehow there's some right that I don't have, that I'm not aware of. But if you look at conservatives, they say they have made needed changes. And that's because rights, as we understand them, it's about legal rights. Well, your rights in the Constitution. It's what the civil rights movement was about. I want my constitutional rights, freedom to assemble, freedom to vote, the grandfather clause and all that kind of nonsense, access to public accommodations. That's covered. There's no one who can argue up until 2020 that everyone had the same rights. May not have the same outcomes, but they had the same rights. But if you look over here, you see that the Democrats across the board, with a smaller margin amongst opportunity Democrats, think that there needs to continue to make changes. Exactly what changes need to be made? They never explain what the changes are, because you have to explain what right me, black person, do not have that my white neighbor does. That's the thing with this voting rights stuff. What right to vote is being stopped? What right does the black person not have? ID? Black people can't get IDs? Are you saying that black people are incapable of getting photo ID? And these are I'm going to get there. Let me not jump the gun. Let me jump the gun. But again, they think we are perpetual victims. We don't have the same rights. Whatever. Now, sharp differences among Democrat-leaning groups on racial discrimination and black achievement. Now, discrimination is the main reason blacks can't get ahead. 91% of solid liberals and over 50% of opportunity Democrats and disaffected Democrats think that discrimination is the main reason why blacks can't get ahead. Because apparently we don't have the same rights. So blacks are perpetually victims to liberal groups. Remember, this is back in 2017, right? It's just discrimination. That is the thing. Question. Asians, Indians, right? There's no comment about that. I don't understand how Pew does this survey, poll, whatever, and they don't ask this follow-up question. They need to ask this follow-up question. All right. Here, polarized view of the Black Lives Matter movement. Of course, solid liberals, 94% strongly support. Yeah, of course. Of course. That's why there's more of them out in the street. So here's another kicker. It goes back to, remember, discrimination is the number one thing holding Black people back. Remember that. Here they go. First, percent who say immigrants today strengthen the U.S. with hard work and talents. Among solid liberals and opportunity Democrats, even disaffected Democrats, think that hard work and talents are what immigrants bring to the U.S. as a strength. But blacks can't get ahead because of discrimination, and hard work doesn't pay. How do they believe this stuff? I mean, that's so contradictory. I mean, if hard work doesn't pay and discrimination is rampant and keeping Black people down, you would think that these immigrants who come in, their hard work wouldn't give them squat. Anyway, so I wanted to show that because this is one of the things, and I'm missing one of these because that was very relevant, and I think it's on the first page. So let me go back up to make sure I cover it because it's very, very important. Yeah, Donald Trump, we know about that, and two. We have, they trust scientists. We know that they trust the science. Labor unions, percent, they say, no, that's not it. One thing I hate about doing it this way, not having a PDF, is I can't highlight, which makes this a lot better for me to do stuff. There was a part about healthcare and government running stuff, but I'll let that go. So the devout Democrats and their personal life stories. So here's one of the things that I noticed. So again, the blues are Democrats and the reds are conservatives. Notice that less than half of Democrats own a home. I think the only group that has over 50% is the opportunity Dems. 44% of devout and diverse, dissatisfied. I think only the solid liberals crack 70% of having a major credit card. See, that requires having knowledge of how money works to an extent. The investment in the stock market, a lot of them don't have access, don't have money in the market, which means they're working jobs that don't offer a 401k. So what kind of jobs are these people working in? Because you notice a stark difference. I don't think any conservative group drops below 50% in any of those categories. But Democrats have passports. They like to travel. Think about it. It costs quite a bit to travel. Apparently, Democrats like to blow their money on travel, And hey, you want to go on the SARS boat, knock yourself out. But they spend apparently what they have and then turn around and wonder why they're broke. While conservatives save what they have, buy assets, invest in the stock market to make more money, and don't complain about being broke or discrimination or hard work not paying off. Meanwhile, these Democrats want to hang out, fly here and there, get on a boat and take a cruise, and take selfies on a beach, and then wonder 10, 20 years later why they have no savings and they can't retire. It's a change. It's a difference in thinking. So I wanted to discuss those because it just was just really out there with these people. So what was this? I really wish I had the part that said about the it's not here. Okay. And there's an appendix 1. And here they are again. Solid liberals with their key beliefs. Government regulation of business is necessary to protect public interest. Now, we're going to see later how they like to, we'll see later how they do. Right? Poor people have hard lives because government benefits don't go far enough to help them live decently. Right? The state needs to appropriate more from people who are supposedly not poor to help the poor live better. There are significant obstacles that make it harder for women to get ahead than men. 97% of this. Okay. Stricter environmental laws and regulations are worth the cost. 100% of solid liberals. Hard work and determination are no guarantee of success for most people, except for those immigrants who are hardworking and therefore an asset to America. Our country needs to continue to make change to give blacks equal rights with whites, with never explaining exactly what right we don't have. Immigrants today strengthen our country because of hard work and talent, but hard work and determination are no guarantee to success for most people. So I guess most of them are just they're hard working, but they're not successful. Yeah. So that's what these people are about. They're contradictory. Now, I want to note this stuff about what the government should do and who has rights. I really wish I had found that one article, that one part about the health, because I did put this thing out where they said it. I know I'm wasting your time, but I don't want this to go by. We know about Donald Trump. I'm not worried about Donald Trump. Yeah, here we are. Yeah, I skipped it because I was talking about Donald Trump. Government has responsibility to make sure all Americans have health coverage. 97% of solid liberals, 78% of opportunity Democrats, 80% of disaffected Democrats, and 72% of the devout and diverse. All right? All Americans should have health care. Government should be regulating, and black people have some right that they can't explain that white people have. And never mind anybody else. Everyone else doesn't exist. Now, let's get to this Rasmussen poll. COVID-19, I told you it was going to be kind of related. Democratic voters support harsh measures against the unvaccinated. Now, here are the questions, because before I discuss the percentages, we need to look at the questions that they were asked. So, hello? Yes, I'll take your poll. Sure, shoot me the question. Okay, question number 1. Do you have a very favorable, somewhat unfavorable, or favorable impression of Dr. Anthony Fauci? He's a fraud, right? So that's question number 1. Remember, Democrats like experts. Do you strongly favor, somewhat oppose, or strongly oppose President Biden's plan to impose a COVID-19 vaccine mandate on employees of large companies and government agencies? Remember, there are rights. There are rights that blacks don't have, that whites do. So this is a question that goes directly to rights. Would you strongly favor, somewhat favor, blah, 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 a proposal for the federal or state governments to fine Americans who chose not to get a COVID-19 vaccine? Would you strongly favor, blah, 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 a proposal to limit the spread of coronavirus? We'll stop here for a minute. Commentary. We already know you're not stopping the spread. We have world record cases at this point. So just think about that. By having federal or state governments require that citizens remain confined in their homes at all times. That's called house arrest. Except for emergencies, if they refuse to get a COVID-19 vaccine. Notice, not if they were sick, not if they were in a place that they could have been exposed, some kind of justification. You refuse a shot, you're under house arrest at all times, indefinitely. Would you strongly favor, blah, blah, to limit the spread of coronavirus by having the federal, state governments require that citizens temporarily live in designated facilities, concentration camps, or locations if they refuse to get a COVID-19 vaccine? Now, I'm going to say it again, like I said at the beginning. Nazi Germany didn't go from zero to ovens. There were steps along the way. So just imagine, do you strongly oppose or limit the spread of lice? Because that's what they said the Jews had. They had lice and something like that. By having the federal or state governments require Jews remain confined in their homes at all times. You think that would actually pass today? Can you imagine asking that question today, and instead of saying citizens, you said Jew? Right? Schumer would lose his mind. Okay, let's continue the questions. Would you strongly favor, blah, 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 a proposal for the federal or state governments to fine or imprison people? So we're going from house arrest, concentration camp, to prison, which I guess is another concentration camp. We might as well call it the same thing. Right? Who publicly question the efficacy of existing COVID-19 vaccines on social media, television, radio, or in online or digital publications. Now, remember we were talking about the rights, how they think black people need. This is a question that goes directly to people's rights as protected, not given, but protected by the Constitution. People were asked this question. You would think the question was like, strongly oppose putting people in jail for free speech. Right? There should be a big goose egg at the support part. Jail for speaking. Speaking. Would you strongly, blah, 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 oppose a proposal for federal or state governments to require unvaccinated citizens to use a smartphone app or wearable device? You're on parole. You're on bail. That tracks unvaccinated people. Yellow star, yo. Let's put it. Dude, should we put a yellow star with a yellow patch armband with a Star of David on the Jews? Can you just imagine if Hitler had social media? Could you imagine how wild this would have been if Hitler had social media? We're having the Nazi pose. Should we put the Jews in a card so we can see who they are? Because, they're white like us. They might try to blend in. And you don't want those dirty Jews, so we should put something. How many people agree? Can you imagine if Hitler had social media? Right, so you put a device that tracks unvaccinated people to ensure they are quarantined. Don't let those Jews get out those ghettos. We can't have those Jews walking around fatherland or socially distanced from others. The Jews are too close. Those dirty Jews are too close. Again, could you imagine if Hitler had social media? If Mussolini had social media? Would America have won the war? Would the Allies have won the war? Listen, here we go. Last question. Would you strongly favor, blah, 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 a proposal to temporarily remove parents' custody of their children if parents refuse to take a COVID-19 vaccine? Now, I'm in New Jersey, so it's diapers. You send diapers with police to yank up people's children because of their medical decisions. But you can smoke in the house with your children. Think about that. You can feed your kids diabetes-inducing food that they advertise on TV as fortified with vitamin C. And nobody would think about putting the police to grab up your kids. You refuse a experiment, and they're going to actually ask a question of whether the state should come in and yank up your children. So these are the questions that were asked. So, sane people would have been like, hell no. Get the hell out of here. What did it say? Survey says. So, here we go. Make sure you see this stuff. They surveyed 1,016 U.S. likely voters. Now, remember in the other stuff I showed you that the strong liberals were outside in politics. So it means they're likely to answer this group. And they have some of the wildest, ideas. Okay. Sampling error of plus or minus 3, 95% confidence. Bars are kind of short. And if this is representative, this is scary. 75% of likely Democratic voters have a favorable opinion of Dr. Fauci. Now, when was this done? This was done on January 5th, 2022. We already know he lied about masks. They're not effective. They're effective. They're not effective. Okay, we already know he lied about the gain of function. That was known by then. And still, even though these facts are known, 75% have a favorable opinion. 75% of Democrats have a favorable opinion of Dr. Fauci. Did I mention that these solid liberals have the highest amount of education? Okay, let's go. 58% of voters would oppose, well, 58% of voters would oppose federal state governments to fine Americans who chose not to, right? That's freaking low. That's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. That number should be zero. Zero. The fact that it's that high for the general public is scary. Imagine Hitler having social media. Should we fine the Jews for not giving up their Judaism and converting to Christianity? Yeah. Nah. Right? 55% of Democratic votes would support such a proposal, compared with just 19% of Republicans and 25% of unaffiliated voters. First of all, shame on you, 19%, and shame on you, 25%. But over half of Democrats would hit your wallet. But see, we know this about these people, right? Because they like to tax. Right? They all about the taxing. So they love raising this tax. So this is consistent with what they're about. They like taking your money. But that's not it. 59% of Democratic voters would favor a government policy requiring that citizens remain confined in their home, house arrest, if they refuse to get a COVID-19 vaccine. And what's worse, 49% is approve of this in general, right? 79% of Republicans oppose, and 70. Who are these 20 and 30% people? Are you serious? I can't even really put this on Democrats. That's a huge number of people. I mean, again, if you put Jew in the place of citizen, you would have Nazi Germany. Confine the Jews to their home for being Jews. Oh, but if you just take the shot, you can get out your house. House arrest for refusing medical treatment for a medicine that admittedly does not stop infection or transmission. That's like saying someone has to being put in house arrest because they didn't take NyQuil. Nearly half of Democratic voters think the federal and state government should be able to fine or imprison. The ghost should be sent to jail, according to half the Democrats, who publicly questioned the efficacy of the existing COVID-19 vaccines on social media, television. Right, we said 48%. Think about this. We've said things here. I've written stuff on the blog that have turned out to be 100% correct. They said, be only 2 shots. I said, nope, it's going to be more than that. Oh, that's conspiracy. These Democrats would have put me in jail for saying, no, that's not going to happen. What are we on? 4th and 5th shots. How many people said, hey, there might be ADE, antibody dependent enhancement. So the disease, because of the antibodies generated by a vaccine, not saying there's one, that could lead to more infections. Omicron comes along, proves them right. But they would want to put us in jail for pointing out stuff that's been known in the literature for decades. But these people will put you in jail and then turn around and talk about rights. So I, Mr. Black Man, would have my rights of free speech abridged by these same Democrats who say that I am lacking rights. And they want to take more of them away. 45% Democrats would favor governments requiring citizens to temporarily live in designated facilities and or locations if they refuse to get a COVID-19 vaccine. Such a policy would be opposed by the strong majority, 71% of all. 45% of Democrats agree with concentration camps. Again, would you imagine if Hitler had social media? Could you just imagine if Hitler had and Goebbels, and I understand Goebbels was like bad man propagandist. Could you imagine if he had social media? And again, 78% of Republicans oppose. Who are these 22% who agree with this? Who? And 64% of unaffiliated voters. So 46% of unaffiliated. Who are these people? They should be ashamed of themselves. Absolutely ashamed of themselves. I'd actually agree with stripping their citizenship and voting rights. People who think this should not be allowed to vote or participate in society. I put them out. Send them to Gitmo. Send them to North Korea. Get these people out. Right? Because I don't aggress against people like that. Hey, people say stuff I think is nonsense every day. I don't think they should go to jail for it. It's just 47% of Democrats favor government tracking programs who don't get the COVID-19. At least that's below 50%. Yeah, at least that's below 50%. But still, it should be zero. Zero. Now, 29% of Democratic voters would support temporarily removing parents' custody of their children if parents were refused to take a COVID-19 vaccine. That's much more than twice the level of support of the rest of the electorate. Concentration camps, house arrest, yellow bans. I mean, do you understand? This is why I say these are the new Nazis. I'm telling you, these are these same people who said everyone should have health care, who want to control the government and have the government control health care. This is what they're about. Now here's the part that makes no sense whatsoever. And I haven't really heard anyone mention it. The survey found that more black voters, 63%, than whites, Hispanics, or other minorities support Biden's vaccine mandate for government workers and employees of large numbers. See, I've said for a long time that black leadership is morally bankrupt. But I'm going to go even further. because this takes the cake. Black people lead in the pack. People, I'm gonna stretch this out because y'all need to understand. You understand what was just said here. I want you to understand this. Black people used to be property in this country. Literal. Like, people own black people like I own this phone. Okay? That's what we were. And this phone's black. You understand? This is what we were. We had no rights over our bodies. Not even our children. Our children could be snatched up and sold off. Now you're descended from people who fought against that to have autonomy over their own bodies. And you in 2022 are going to approve of violating bodily autonomy of other people. And you're black. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're a disgrace. You're a disgrace. Yeah, there's a poet back there has this track called Bring Back Segregation. I think some of these people need to be put right back on a slave ship so they can understand what bodily autonomy is about and what having rights is about. Because apparently some of these folk don't forgot. Martin Luther King Day just rolled by and not a word about bodily autonomy. Shame on you. We finally celebrate Juneteenth, which I think is a great thing because it discusses bodily autonomy. We ended slavery and we determined that everybody has the right to their own bodies and we're not the property of any individual or the state. And 63% of blacks, more than any other group, approves of violating bodily autonomy. Shame on you. Shame on you. You have absolutely no morals. And then you're going to go to church on Sunday. About Jesus. I see you. You got to answer for that. That's President Biden's strongest supporters are most likely to endorse the harshest punishments against those who won't get the COVID-19 vaccine. And I'm old enough to remember when all of them, when Trump was in office, said, I'm not taking the Trump shot. I'm not taking the Trump shot. They rushed it and all that. I don't want no parts of the Trump shot. There you go. So this is what I wanted to go over. Show you that we got new Nazis here. We got new Nazis. This is a big, this COVID thing has been a big test. It's been a big eye opener for me, seeing the number of people that, given the opportunity, when that they could have the power and they can just put it on somebody and get away with it and get cheered for it, that they went for it. And a lot of people have no moral compass, and they just got revealed. And that's a shame. That's a shame. But it's consistent. We saw from 2017 how they look at folk. And the more power they get, the more they reveal. That's the old saying, the higher the monkey climbs, the more he expose. Yep. Democrats are out of power for a bit. When they got in and they got all those offices, they just showed everything. So yeah, we got a bunch of Nazis running around, and they're good with concentration camps. They're good with grabbing up people's kids. Another thing I just pointed out with what happened with black folk, our kids could just be yanked out. They're good with that. They're good. They're good with tracking people and all kinds, house arrest. They no good. These are the new Nazis. That's who you're dealing with. Act accordingly. And that's it for Garvey's Ghost TV, January 19th, 2022. This will be on other platforms. ting and ting and ting.